Good morning, class. My name is Sergeant Huston. Today we'll be doing a brief over servant leadership. This brief will be unclassified. So to start, we'll do a brief overview of the PowerPoint. We'll go over some definition of what a servant leader is. We'll go over some values that servant leaders will have, and communication and diversity. Being a servant leader, communication is huge. And then also in the brief, we will go over two servant leaders, Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan, a couple quotes that they've had. At this time, are there any questions? Okay. So the definition of servant leader is a leadership style, a philosophy whereby an individual interacts with others, either in a management or fellow employee capacity, to achieve authority rather than power. Now we'll get into some of the values that they have, which is going to be all of the Army values. So we'll start with loyalty. As a servant leader, you take an oath to serve and support your subordinates. Duty. You're going to be fulfilling your job as a leader and taking care of those that follow you. And respect, treating your peers as you would want to be treated. Selfless service. You should always put the welfare of your soldiers above yourself. Honor. Live up to being a leader. Take pride in your peers' accomplishments. And integrity. Always do what's physically and morally right, even when nobody's watching. And personal courage. Have the courage to face fear and always stand up for your subordinates. So the Army's preferred leadership style is servant leadership. Peers grasp onto this leadership style because they feel valued, empowered, and needed. Their individual needs and interests are listened to, and everybody has the same common goals and tasks. They feel like they're a part of the team and a part of the bigger picture. And then inspiration. Servant leaders should be trying to inspire their subordinates, teach them, and foster the servant leadership style. Leading by example inspires them to follow and follow in your footsteps. Inspire them to think about themselves. Inspire them not to think about themselves. And put the rest of the team above themselves. Inspire them to be the best version of themselves that they can be. So now we'll get into a couple quotes that come from Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan. So Abraham Lincoln was tasked with chopping down a tree, and one of his famous quotes is, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." So when you think about the quote itself, you can kind of compare it to how a squad is. You're not just going to go out and run into the mission without being trained, without knowing what you're doing. So we spend most of our time training, and in that time, we're sharpening our axe to chop down the tree to accomplish the mission. And Ronald Reagan one of his quotes is, "The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one who gets the people to do the greatest things." So that's exactly what a servant leader is. You're not trying to get all the glory for the accomplishments. You're putting that off. You're letting your peers, your subordinates get noticed and rewarded for their accomplishments, not yourself. And it kind of ties into communication. If you got good communication skills, you can get your subordinates to do basically whatever you want them to do. And then another quote from Ronald Reagan is, "Surround yourself with the best people you can find, delegate authority, and don't interfere as long as the policy you've decided upon is being carried out." So it's not always jumping in and leaning over your soldiers' shoulders and watching everything they're doing. It's having trust and respect for your soldiers always accomplishing the mission and doing the right thing. Servant leaders shouldn't have to stand there and watch over their shoulders. You should automatically know that they're doing the right thing and they're going to get the mission accomplished because you have trust in one another. So, in summary, servant leaders instill the Army values. They lead by example, and they promote effective communication. We discussed a couple of servant leaders, Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan. In conclusion, today, we should all value servant leadership, become an effective follower first, and then strive to be the servant leader yourself. So we're at the end of the brief for today. We will go ahead and give you guys handouts for the PowerPoint so you guys can look over it yourselves and take the information home with yourselves. So at this time, are there any questions? All right, if there's no questions for me, this will conclude my brief. Thank you.